Assalamu alaikum, adab, good morning, sat sri akal, namaskar. My name is Sayyid Kaswar Abbas. Today, I'm going to talk about United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to little deliberate upon role of education. Education must be able to be applied. If education can't be applied, demonstrated, be part of character and personality, develop and grow personalities, scientifically create a beneficial product through research and development, then it is useless. It's for learned and qualified people to become role models in demonstrating through their character and personality for others to follow. Education empowers people to develop knowledge and skills that nurture new ideas and technologies. Education, therefore, is a catalyst for broader change and critically important for driving progress towards sustainable development. Recognizing the important role of education, the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development highlights education as a standalone goal, SDG number 4. That is, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Access to new technologies should provide the education sector with the means to innovate education systems and expand access to better quality education for all. COVID-19 pandemic has brought these opportunities and challenges into sharper focus. On one hand, it has given massive insights into how the role of technology can radically shift to reach 1.5 billion students affected by school closures. Rather than just disseminating content, it can also strengthen relationships between students and teachers. On the other hand, the COVID 19 crisis has also exposed deep inequities in the education system, with half of the affected students not having access to a household computer and 43% having no internet at home. Far too many children are cut off from learning. So, ladies and gentlemen, the current situation is every child has the right to access safe and quality education. However, 124, that is 12.4 crores, 124 million children across the world are out of school, and 250 millions, that is 25 crores, are not learning basic skills as a result of poor quality education. Globally, 150 million children, that is 15 crore, are living with disabilities. They are often denied an education because they are the most vulnerable and excluded people in their communities. Girls, children with disabilities, those from minority groups, and children living in poor and remote areas are most often denied access to education. This has far reaching consequences on their future and those of their families, communities, and countries. Out of total population of students enrolled in education globally, UNESCO estimates that over 89% are currently out of school because of COVID-19 closures. This represents 1.54 billion children and youth enrolled in school or university, including nearly 743 million girls. Now, this SDG number 4 has some targets and indicators. You can go on United Nations website and read them in detail. However, I would little bit illustrate them for your awareness. By 2030, ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education, leading to relevant and effective learning outcomes. By 2030, ensure that all girls and boys have access to quality early childhood development care and pre-primary education so that they're ready for primary education. By 2030, ensure equal access for all women and men to affordable and quality technical, vocational, and tertiary education, including university. By 2030, substantially increase the number of youth and adults who have relevant skills, including technical and vocational skills for employment, decent jobs, and entrepreneurship. By 2030, eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for vulnerable, including persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and children with vulnerable situations. By 2030, ensure that all youth and a substantial proportion of adults, both men and women, achieve literacy and numeracy. By 2030, ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, though education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyle, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of cultural contribution to sustainable development. Build and upgrade education facilities that are child, disability, and gender sensitive and provide safe, non-violent, inclusive, and effective learning environment for all. By 2020, this was a last year, so this goal should have been done during last year. Substantially expand globally the number of scholarships available to developing countries, in particular least developed countries, small islands, developing states, and African countries for enrollment in higher education, including vocational training and information and communication technology, technical engineering and scientific programs in developed countries and other developing countries. By 2030, substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers, including through international cooperation for teacher training in developing countries, especially least developed countries and small island developing states. So these were the targets and indicators which United Nations had fixed for sustainable development number four, goal number 4. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I would little bit illustrate that what kinds of education is currently going on around the world. Preschool, elementary, and middle level education, which is from kindergarten to grade 8, and later on move to high school and higher secondary school, which is intermediate. And these schools are public funded, private schools, universities, and it could be privately funded as well. Vocational colleges, they could also be private and public funded. Open and remote learning institution, these are continuing education institutions, as well as there could be other regular degrees and certificates and diploma as well. Now, self-education is also one form of the education where people make their own arrangements to learn what kind of skills and knowledge they need. Parents, teachers, officials, both governments and private, all seniors, training on personality development and character building, encourage them to be the role models for coming up youth and next generation. So these could also be different kind of trainings, which I think in developed countries there are some kind of trainings available. They could be kind of making the people, senior people, role model for the younger generations. I have read one news that India, there was an encouraging news that India in 2020 released a policy to reform their early education system from 10 plus 2 format, like 10 is the grade 10, which is secondary, and then 2 is the higher secondary format. Most of the schools, they follow 10 plus 2 format, but India has tried to reform this system, and they are probably working on it. And they have segmented into 4 different parts: 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So in the initial part, they say that there will be less books, more engaging health and analytical skills, mathematics and reasoning, logical thinking in early years, and in later years, adding vocational programs, deeper and practical knowledge in sciences, mathematics, arts, social sciences, and humanities. So, and then, ladies and gentlemen, since we're talking of the sustainable development goals, I would like to little bit deliberate upon that what kind of sustainable in environmental education could be there, and what's its definition, and how it could bring the benefit to the teachers and students. So, sustainable in environmental education is about healthy relationships between humans and earth living systems, that is system of energies of sun, earth, planet, animals, plants, and all living beings. The transmission, growth, and application of environmental knowledge across all sectors of society. Now, how could this benefit the people? It could be imagination and enthusiasm are heightened. Environmental education is hands on, ladies and gentlemen, interactive learning that sparks the imagination and unlocks creativity. Learning transcends the classroom. So, environmental education enables students to make connections and apply their learning to the real world. Critical and creative thinking skills are enhanced. Environmental education encourages students to make their own decisions about complex environmental issues. Tolerance and understanding are supported. Environmental education encourages students to investigate varying sides of issues to understand the full picture. State of national learning standards are met for multiple subjects. By incorporating environmental education practices into the curriculum, teachers can integrate science, maths, and more into one rich lesson. Moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, I heard an interview. It was a very nice interview from Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Imran Khan only yesterday, 15th January 2021, and in which he stated that in English medium schools, there are 8 lakh students which are studying at this time in Pakistan. Urdu medium have 30 million, which is 3 crore, and madrasa schools, they have 25 million, that is 2.5 crores. It was a good addition to my knowledge, and I was happy that Prime Minister is personally interested in following it up. But I may add a little bit that as per 2014 UNICEF report, 27 million children, that is 2.7 crores of the age of 5 to 13 years, are out of school in Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and Sri Lanka. Currently, this number must have increased a lot. Given COVID and other factors. UNICEF later had appreciated Sri Lanka government efforts to reduce number of out of school children. Now, since I see that in South Asia, governments are trying to regulate madrasa and informal schools. So I have some recommendations to that effect. So now what I believe should be done, so government can have a look and see that if my recommendations have some value. So provide better quality education standards in the government funded schools. So there could be a better quality education. Try to improve the government funded schools standard of education. Support incentives for informal students and parents to be voluntarily. So informal school students and parents should be voluntarily being encouraged and pulled towards government schools. So if you will improve the quality of education, quality of teaching, incentives and support for the government schools, so the informal school students and parents, they'll be encouraged and they'll be pulled towards the government school. So that could be one pull strategy which could be exercised. So then teachers training on the pull strategies: engage, entertain, joy, love, feed, play, facilities, and incentives. The teachers must be benevolent, selfless, happily willing to learn and improve themselves. Regular trainings and certifications for the teachers of government funded schools, promotions only on performance basis. This is a teacher promotion. It's only on performance basis, not on seniority basis. Seniority based promotions is outdated, ladies and gentlemen, everywhere around the world. They should be selfless, they should be benevolent. So performance has to be new basis of the promotion. Besides that, incentives must be provided to madrasa and informal schools to be happily willing and ready to join government efforts for improving quality of education for all at all ages. So, following strategies I could suggest which are needed around the world. So, there are multiple systems of education, multiple syllabi, and multiple mediums of education. They could be standardized into one system. So, such diverse systems of education and syllabi creates marginalization, segmentation, and groupings amongst the society, leading to bifurcation and polarization. Efforts must be made to have one standard of education for all. School and educational institutions must have one standard for administration and qualifications as well, else their licenses should not be awarded or renewed. Lower level institutions must be financed to improve their quality of education within certain time limit assigned to them by regulatory bodies. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we were talking of that vulnerable people, they should not be left behind. So, the girls, women, special people, or disabled people, transgender, and seniors, so they are generally left behind. So, what we should do about it? So, there could be easy access, reachable. Schools must be reachable to them. Incentives for vulnerable segments, these vulnerable segments of the society must be ensured. School locations should be close to their residences. Respectable transportation must be provided, or boarding and lodging should be provided if required. Inclusiveness must be ensured through acceptance, inclusion, respect, engagement, and futuristic optimism should be given to them. There should be a message of optimism to them that they'll have a better, they will continue to have education. So, teachers and staff dealing vulnerable people must be qualified, trained, certified regularly up to required standards, regulated by effective governments, regulatory bodies, and public representatives. To do all this, ladies and gentlemen, there is a accurate census. Accurate census is a must. It must be for the governments to have close, accurate census about their population, to have accurate planning done, to meet the needs of the people, taxation measures, financing, budgeting, and support needed. So now, besides that, there could be a flawless digitization, connectivity, data analytics, and key performance indicators. Setting up, monitoring, and tracking is a must. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we see in around the world that there are reactive kind of responses to all the situations. So governments at all levels, they need to switch over now to when they will have digitization and data analytics and KPIs established, they will be able to, if they are experts on that, they will be able to enforce proactive strategies rather than reactive. Governments, commercial, and private organizations need to use data analytics to highlight performance indicators that trigger proactive actions to analyze the trends leading towards negative consequences. So those trends which are leading towards negative kind of consequences, they should be caught beforehand and remedial measures must be taken. So that will be achieved, ladies and gentlemen, through digitization and e-governance from top to grassroots level with complete lateral and horizontal connectivity. Now, above all, leadership at all levels. There is a there is a need to have fearless leadership with embedded wisdom. They should be qualified, they should be tech savvy, behaviorally composed and stable, honest, people of integrity and character, reputation with clear brand of authenticity and reliability. Benevolent and selfless leaders are needed at all levels of the governments and other organizations. And it must start from the top, ladies and gentlemen. Around the world, it's very visible that there is a leadership crisis. They have personal motives and agendas and biases, and it's clear now. So that must be quickly addressed sooner than later to put global progress on the right track. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate your encouragement, you subscribing to this channel, listening to my videos, and spreading the word. Uh, Thank you very much again, and Allah Hafiz till next time.